tuned in to the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you for tuning into this episode. This is the start of season 16, episode 1 of the podcast. Before we get into the episode, as you see in the title front, there's a few things I'd like to say up front. I know it's been a couple weeks since you last saw the last recording, which was the end of season 15. Within that time, a couple things happened. Finished summer school, and I decided to take a little break. It was just a lot between recording, summer school, and my summer job. So we're back. This week, you're going to see a lot of recordings come out. There's a lot I need to catch up on, some things that happened while I was on vacation, quote unquote. But in this video, we are talking about week 12 of the WNBA and the rankings. Brenden Potts will be joining me on this episode. But before we do that, let me get you the speed. The last time you saw me was week 10 of the WNBA season. We were just getting ready, just about almost there for the Commissioner's Cup, and I want to get you kind of to where we are now. This was my week 11 rankings, and this is just where I felt like the teams were up until then. The Indiana Fever, the Phoenix Mercury, the Seattle Storm, Los Angeles Sparks, the Washington Mystics. Almost I had arguably put them at number 9 and potentially 10. Chicago Sky, Minnesota Lynx, the Atlanta Dream, number 4 Dallas, number 3 Connecticut, and number 2 New York, and number 1 Las Vegas. That was my week 11 rankings for the W. Now we are getting into week 12 of the WNBA season. The WNBA season is almost at a wit's end. We're about 10 to 11 games left of the season, respectfully. Before I do start, I'll bring him on. I definitely do want to take the opportunity to also say, keep on the lookout. MarylandSportsBlog.com. Check out some great. I just had an article posted on there about a few days ago. I will be uploading some episodes with the Keep It 9450 Women's Basketball Network. So I apologize, Daniel K. I had not gotten episodes out to you, but you'll be getting those episodes soon. Also, too, we're going to talk about there were some things that happened last week. With regard to one, Liz Cambage. That would be a video. We're going to get ready for the NFL preseason. The Washington Commanders, they had their first preseason game for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll be joining Sean Spencer and Will Kramer on Washington Football Weekly as we get ready for week 2 of the preseason. Washington versus Baltimore, we're breaking down as well the Washington game as well. So, but thank you for your continued support of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. I apologize. I missed you guys. Hope you missed me. But let's bring in the MVP of women's basketball, who at this point I consider him a celebrity, and there's just no debate. My guy, Mr. Brenden Potts. Brenden, what's going on, sir? How you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Hey, I wanted to congratulate you on finishing summer school. So
Thank you.
that's awesome. And I don't know if you've officially graduated college yet, but I
No,
mean,
it'll be next summer.
there you go. Well, you're getting there. So
Yes,
hope you can be joining me soon in the college graduates club, man.
absolutely, absolutely. I am proclaiming that I will. Actually, you know what? I'm putting a guarantee on that.
Guarantee.
Yes, yes. So before we get into the Week 12 rankings, let's just break down the Commissioner's Cup. Um, the New York Liberty won their first regular season championship banner by defeating the Las Vegas Aces 82-63. Jonquel Jones was your MVP with a double-double of 16 points and 15 rebounds. Brenden, what were your thoughts on this game?
I have a couple of thoughts on this game. First, Jonquel Jones was definitely deserving of the MVP. I would have, in my opinion, I would have given it to Marino Johannes, but I'm just glad the WNBA didn't get, or whoever voted in the media for the MVP didn't go by popular vote of the team with either Brianna Stewart or Sabrina Ionescu. So despite Sabrina shooting from out of the building like she always does in Vegas, um, but congrats to New York. The only caution, New York fans are crazy and they're all over my timeline because I'm still a Brianna Stewart fan. Um, but I just want to caution the New York fans that listen to this because Vegas won the Commissioner's Cup last year and they won the championship. Seattle won the first Commissioner's Cup and they did not win the championship. And Brianna Stewart was on that team. So just be careful about. You can celebrate this now. This is a great accomplishment, but just be careful. It doesn't count for the regular season. And I think the Liberty players have the goal of, yeah, it's great to win the Commissioner's Cup, but we want to do something better in winning a championship. And I think fans need to get in that gear rather quickly. Don't let this go on too long, this celebration. The downside of this particular game, when is this going to be nationally televised? Like seriously, I can't remember. I think it was someone. Shit, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was yeah, I can't remember. I think it was like Carolyn Peck. I think on social media was like, when is this going to be nationally televised or something? It's something like that. And I was like, yeah, exactly. This needs to be nationally shown to the world. And what bothers me is there was nothing going on the ESPN networks. There was nothing going on. And yeah, maybe some little league stuff, or if something like like semi big or big is going on the ESPN networks, sure, that's an exception. But there was nothing going on, and the fact that these are two of the super teams that we've been talking about, and they've been nationally recognized in the entirety of the offseason and up until now, and you don't put them on national television for an essential championship game, and it's just like that's the part that bothers me the most. That's the downside of this game being played on Amazon Prime instead of ESPN. And on that other note too, some people don't have an Amazon Prime or can't access it. So how are they going to watch the game? Like, there's no way. Um, in Seattle, we use Amazon Prime locally to stream our games, so I can watch the game because I'm local. I'm in Washington, but some people don't have Amazon Prime, and I'm fortunate to have that, so I can watch it. But if someone out there doesn't have Amazon Prime and can't afford it, or just use their free trial, they can't watch the game. So it needs to be nationally televised, and I hope the commissioner can recognize that next year. So that was my those were my takeaways. I did have a question for you though. When did it become where the two teams would play at the better record hosting? Because it was in Vegas, and I asked that because the Commissioner's Cup that Seattle played in was against Connecticut, but it was hosted in Phoenix.
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. I don't know whose idea was to have it on a neutral ground. Now this year, I don't know what changed about it. I was still trying to figure that out myself.
Was it in Vegas? Was it in Vegas or Chicago last year? Or I'm sorry, who was in the? So it was Vegas, and then uh, who else was in the Commissioner's Cup?
Chicago, I think it was. If I remember,
Was it Chicago?
it might have been Chicago. If it wasn't, it was Connecticut. I feel like it was Chicago.
Yeah, it was Chicago. Yeah, because Connecticut made the finals. That's right. Yeah. So okay, so what? Yeah, so it was in Chicago. So that pisses me off as a Seattle fan, because I think the Seattle crowd would have loved that, and that would have been big for
Sure.
Seattle basketball, trying to get the Sonics back and everything. So yeah, that pisses me off as a Seattle fan that it was changed the next season. So that was my question. That's what I was wondering. A side note, a little bit off of the Commissioner's Cup, but it happened the same day. Can the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, can she like put words into action when talking about expansion, or announce something about expansion, because she's answering the same damn question with the same words, like, oh yeah, we have expansion is coming, it's happening, it's gonna happen later, we might get to announce it later in the season or later in the year, we're working on it right now. Oh, have you narrowed down the teams? Oh yeah, we've narrowed it down. Oh, okay, that piques the interest. To how many teams? Oh, about 10. Okay, that just takes it away. So it's so frustrating because you hear the same answers after long periods of waiting, and it's just the same thing with sounding like no progress.
Well, I would harper on everyone on a couple things. Kathy Engelbert is the voice for the owners, so essentially she is the voice box for them. Okay. In my personal opinion, I don't think expansion should be the number one priority. I think everybody's number one priority is a new CBA. Let's just keep it honest. When 2025 arrives, they're opting out of this current CBA. Let's just keep it real. There's other things you need to focus on. I think roster expansion needs to happen. I think you need to have better travel. I think you need to have better facilities and stuff. When you're hearing like Candace Parker saying that she never had a locker until she got to Vegas. According to Liz Cambage in her interview with Taylor Rooks, that they were in the parking lot with cooling tubs and stuff like that. There's just a lot of things that they need to work on before we talk about expansion. And some of those cities, respectfully, every one of those cities have questions. So let's just keep it real. So there's also, you got to think of, there's also the politics side of it. So for me, they're always going to ask her questions, and she's just going to stick to that respectfully. I was a little surprised that nobody really asked. I would have expected more about, we think the new CBA is going to entitle. What do you think should be prioritized? But Yeah, I do think that this when they negotiate their new CBA, because they will opt out of this one in 2025. There is going to be a really interesting fight at the table. Um, but I want to transition to back to the game. Um, I still think this game did not move me. Um, this was again, this is a regular championship banner. This means nothing to me. It's their first title they won in the existence of their franchise history. No disrespect to them. They're the first team to beat Las Vegas on their floor. Let's keep it real.
Technically not, because it doesn't count as a regular season game either.
Right. But I'm just saying, in terms of other than what they've played, that's the first time they got to be on the court. I mean, I thought everything was going right for New York. I just think Las Vegas, to me, there's a couple questions, and even coming into the season, I had some questions. The acquisition of Alicia Clark and Candace Parker were big, but I just feel like with her out indefinitely, Alicia Clark to me was not 100% with her back injury. I question what the roles are of the bench. Now, earlier today on Twitter, somebody said that Sid Colson should be cut. Respectfully, she should not be. But you do have to question what are their roles. When you only have 2 points compared to New York's 24 bench points, that is simply, I don't care if it was a regular season game or a playoff game. That's not winning you any basketball games.
Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. Mm-hmm. What do you want me to say to that?
So I was very disappointed in the bench usage, because we said this even during the finals. You cannot play Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson 30, 40 minutes plus. You're going to wear them out. I mean, you bought Kayla George there for a reason. What the roles are not defined. Let me say it like that. So I just think that for me, they just slowed down Asia Wilson, and without Candace Parker out there, that makes a difference. So they have no depth outside of Kia Stokes. I like that acquisition of Lana Coates, but I think she's still trying to figure her way into the system. But the game was pretty much over by the end of the third quarter, because I mean, again, they just had no answers.
Well, they shut down Asia. They shut down Asia in the second half. I think she had 0 third quarter or fourth quarter points.
Yes.
I think both, actually. I think she had 0 second half points. So they basically just shut her out, limited her shot attempts.
Yeah.
But I saw that tweet, by the way, about them cutting Sydney Colson.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you. They should not cut her. For the vibes alone. I mean, it would kill the vibes there. But I saw another tweet that I wanna pull everybody back from if you're concerned about Vegas. There's peaks and valleys every year by any team, no matter how good or bad they are. Yep. Vegas had them last year, despite looking as good as they did in the playoffs. They did have some struggles in that season, and I think it's looked at differently this year because they're a quote unquote super team.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a narrative that nothing can go wrong, and if nothing can go wrong with this good of a team, and if something does go wrong,
there's been no excuses.
Yeah. But so I saw that tweet, but I also was thinking about, like, because this isn't the only loss from the Aces, especially to New York.
Mm-hmm.
You think about probably one of the greatest 21st century teams of all time, the Golden State Warriors, and their super team in 2017, 2018. They didn't go 82-0. They didn't. They went. No. They were far from that, and yet they looked dominant in the playoffs. So they, just because they're built like a super team doesn't mean the regular season and the playoffs are a different beast. Let's see this team in the playoffs. I want to see this team in the playoffs because we've seen individuals from Vegas in the playoffs take away the super team. We've seen individuals from Vegas turn up a second gear, turn up the next gear into playoff mode. And I point to Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, and we haven't even gotten to Jackie Young yet, and she's had a great year. So this team, they're going to be just fine. I've assumed this whole time that Candace Parker's she's not coming back. She's not coming back.
With a foot fracture, it's less likely. If she does, it'll be like this conference finals.
She's not coming back.
No.
So assuming she doesn't come back, the tweet talked about the lack of depth issues from Vegas too. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned that they'll figure it out. Becky, what you got to remember last year, especially in the playoffs, Becky Hammond doesn't go that deep into the bench.
She doesn't, but you realistically, if you're trying to win a back-to-back championship, you cannot play them 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, but you got to remember they didn't play that many games, and they're probably not going to play that many games this year.
Fair. That's fair.
So if I'm wrong, then yeah, you've got a great point. If they do, if teams come out and give them a challenge, then yeah, you're right. But they didn't play that many games last year. She doesn't go that deep into the bench. And because if she did, I would have had the question about Kirsten Bell, who's been playing great in every minute that
she's been given
every minute
for sure.
she gets. Yeah, exactly. So if she continues to not go deep into the bench, then it's going to be a matter of how many games are they going to play.
Good point. One final point before we move into the rankings. I do want to give a shout out to Lo. She made a very good point at the beginning of the season, and even she talked about this on Keep the 9450 Women's Basketball Network, where she did an interview with Daniel and K-Dot, the media. And she and just hit the nail right on the head. And last night proved it. Because also too, the commentators on that game, oh Lord, let's just transition into our Week 12 ideal rankings. Ladies and gentlemen, there's some things that changed from last week. A couple things did happen. I felt like that did happen. So for me, start off number 12. I'm sorry. I just think Indiana's they just don't have enough firepower. Let's just get ready for the draft. Let's just be ready. Melissa Smith, I'm still not 100%. Will be back soon. Other than Aaliyah Boston, who's Rookie of the Year, can't do it by herself. I mean, she did have a little bit of a kind of went cold there for a bit, but then came back, bounced back, especially I guess lost to Atlanta. They should have double in that game. But realistically, they're just, I'm sorry. I mean, they're 8-23. I mean, the bright spot of the season is Kelsey Mitchell and All-Star team. And Leah Boston will win Rookie of the Year.
And All-Star team.
An All-Star team, thank you. Other than that,
Right, yeah. I listened to Howard Magdal on Locked On Women's Basketball. He had a conversation with Lexi Hole. I'm a big fan of hers. And it's what I got from that conversation when they talked about Indiana basketball was it's a rebuild. There are bright spots of this rebuild, especially early in the season. And there are peaks and valleys, like I said, with Vegas. But there are definitely more valleys with Indiana.
mm-hmm.
I think the last time I came on here, we talked about like rebuilding around Aaliyah Boston, finding a centerpiece in Aaliyah, keeping or misusing Kelsey Mitchell, but like you got to rebuild around Aaliyah Boston, and you can basically trade or cut anybody else. I
agree.
think Lexi Hull is a big part of their future. That's what I'm getting. But because of her defense and because of her help as a defensive wing. So I think she is going to be a part of their future somehow. I hope that happens because I still want to see her in this league. And I think she fits Indiana. So that would be my only hesitation on everybody else is movable except Aaliyah Boston. Um, but essentially where we're at now with Indiana is a rebuild, but
Pretty much.
with bright spots. But it's essentially a rebuild.
Essentially. I mean, other than beating Minnesota,
Yeah,
we played them Friday, and then they have Phoenix on Sunday. So I'm not really expecting much from Indiana at this point. I want to give you the floor because you were at this game actually. Number 11, we had the Phoenix Mercury. Just what did you see from them? Um, just be brief in terms of the game, and just what do you think of the season so far?
yeah. So I went to the Storm and the Mercury game this past Sunday. Great game. I really enjoyed it. Shout out Sophie Cunningham. We got a picture before the game, so she's actually really nice. As much as she is a bitch on the court, she's really nice off the court. So yeah, Sophie's awesome. Speaking of bitch, why can't we touch Diana Taurasi? Like, God forbid we touch Diana Taurasi, we get fouls called against us, and then she and the rest of the team clobbers us, and we can't get a foul call to save our lives. So I mean, it's been an issue her whole career. Um, but whatever. Water under the bridge, I guess. Um, I will talk about with this game specifically. She only had 5 points. Diana did, and I was walking out of the stadium, and a Seattle fan stopped me, and he goes, "I think Diana Taurasi's played one too many years." And I go, "That's actually a great point. Like, you legitimately thought that she should have retired last year, and I kind of have to agree. She does not look like like she's in the zone. She doesn't look like she's kind of zoned out. She's scored her 10,000. Congrats to her. And now, like, with the season going the way it is, she's just kind of running on fumes, and I think they're running on fumes. Um, and it's just been a lost season. And you said on the last episode you did that they just need to blow it up, and I agree. I think with them, I think next year is going to be Diana Taurasi's final year in the story All-Star Weekend in Phoenix. It's going to be Diana Taurasi's last hurrah.
Don't
That'll
forget about the Olympics.
yeah, in the Olympic year. That'll be her last Olympics, I'm assuming. So that the stories all match up together. The only thing is I don't know where Brittany Griner's going to go if they blow it up. Because I can't see her leaving Phoenix.
No, I don't see it neither.
I can't see her leaving Phoenix. Um, with going back to the game I went to, they played as good a defense as they did against Brittany Griner as she could, and it was so good to watch her play again. I was super happy to watch her play. I was actually about 1 second away from meeting her. I was so close, but I just couldn't get there in time.
That's okay. You'll get it next time.
Yeah. That's my goal. But no, it was so good to meet her. I forgot how short. I think this is a little with how tall Brittany Griner is. I forgot how short Brianna Turner is, because the size differential is insane. But it was a great win. I think they just their offense did not look good. They had a couple of scores like Sophie Cunningham started out hot, but then we kind of shut her down, and then they couldn't. They tried Brittany, and then we kind of had to double team her, and we had excellent help, and they just couldn't. They didn't have any other options. So, and they couldn't. I mean, Diana Taurasi couldn't get going at all. So,
I mean, other than I would say the Connecticut game where they had 45 points in one quarter. I mean, they were 16 or 17 shooting from the field in that game. I mean, I just think it's time to just blow it up, respectfully. And they play New York Friday and Indiana Sunday. I mean, that was the you guys the Phoenix had the back-to-back win. So for only the second time this season, and then you guys beat them, which makes me my next team, the Seattle Storm. Before you talk about Seattle, arguably you could say the fourth quarter comeback was probably some of the best basketball the Storm played. Against Atlanta, and then won 5 of your last 7. Despite that 10-game losing streak you had, and then unfortunately, Miss Gabby Williams is out for the season.
I'm not going to even sit here and act like I didn't know this was coming, or act like I know this was coming, because I did it.
So, what are your thoughts on Seattle?
I mean, come on, man. You start with the bad news, and then you start with the good news, and then you start with the bad news again. I'm like, come on, man. I've already lived through this. No, I think they should be a little bit higher, like a rank 1 or 2 higher, maybe 9 or 8, because of that 5 out of 7 streak that they're going on, in a 2-game winning streak. When they announced that in the stadium that they won 5 out of the last 7 games, that didn't seem real, and I just walked away. I was like, that sounds like a made up stat. Like, that sounds like someone made it up. And I'm just like, no, we won 5 out of our last 7 games, and I think that's incredible. It shows this team wants to win, and this team wants to compete, no matter how good or bad they are. Getting more into how I love the defense from them against Phoenix. Brittany Griner is the tallest player in the league, and this goes with coaching too, because they started out with Dulcie against her, saw that she wasn't tall enough to play man on her, so and Ezzy was busy guarding Brianna Turner, so she couldn't help at all, and even then there's nobody tall enough, so she took out Dulcie and played Mercedes basically the rest of the game, in little spurts of Joyner Holmes. But when Mercedes was in, she was tall enough to where she could hold her own man against Brittany, but Ezzy was able to come and help in that matchup when Brittany had the ball. Now, when she was about to get the ball, they played zone. They started in zone in the second half, and they executed perfectly. And they really tried to shut her down in the post as much as they could. So that was great. Great executed defense by Seattle. They've actually been one of the best defensive teams in the second half of the season. So I think that's really big for their development. Gabby Williams hurts, like losing her hurts. I think it's a bigger opportunity though for Jordan Horston, and I think she's seizing that opportunity so far. She started the games that Gabby has missed so far. And at first it was for matchups, like that's what Noelle Quinn said to the media, that it was for matchups against Atlanta.
Okay.
But I think with how well she's done so far, I think she'll start for the rest of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if she went back to Kia Nurse. That's what I thought she was originally going to do. But Jordan's just played so well and been such a big help for the team that I think she'll stick with it. One of the things that you missed was they cut Ivana Dojkic.
Yeah.
And
because she's
that was, I mean, Yeah. And so that was a shock to me until if you say the headline, they cut Ivana Dojkic without saying any context or anything, that's the biggest shock in the world. And I'm questioning the front office and all that stuff. But then you add context, she's going overseas, she's going to fulfill that. She's going to fulfill that responsibility, and that's the priority. I actually wrote that's why in my piece about Ivana, that's why she didn't initially make the WNBA in 2021.
Right.
So that fits perfectly, and that's a logical explanation. Um, the player I'm looking for to step up, and she has so far, is Jade Melbourne. I am one of her biggest fans. She's the future of this team. She's been getting more minutes off the bench. She's up to 13 to 15 the last two games after not getting any playing time when Ivana was on the team. So that's she's really become our point guard coming off the bench. And she's accumulating stats. She's getting an assist or two here and there. The thing about Jade that I love is she's super fast on the fast break, especially. Like she gets the ball off a turnover, whether she steals it or not. Once she gets the ball, she's going to the hoop, and no one's going to catch her. So that's the thing I love about Jade. But and she's 21 on Friday. She turned 21 on Friday. She's super young. So that's all the things that I love about Jade. And oh yeah, she's Australian too. I just got to keep listing things up that I love about Jade. But they really have a future. Seattle really has a future, and you can really see it in these wins, and you can see that they've learned a lot from the 10-game losing streak. In these wins, you can see that they've learned a lot and they've grown through the losing streak, and it's turned into wins on the other end. So
yeah. We're going to transition into number 9 of the rankings, the Los Angeles Sparks. In my personal opinion, I still think they just have some things they got to fix. Lexi Brown should be back in the starting lineup soon. She went back on the IR because of a non-COVID illness. So I hope she's doing much better. To me, biggest difference is Nneka Ogwumike and Jordan Canada. Jordan Canada should be in the conversation for most improved player. Excuse me. Other than that, I mean, they had 5 of the 3 others that were in double figures in scoring during the winning streak. They did beat us in the previous week, painfully. But for me, I think they're starting to get it back together. I just have some questions about their chemistry. But other than that, I mean, this is their first 3-game winning streak of this season. They do have Las Vegas Saturday. Not really looking at that. I think Las Vegas will come out and be ready for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, only thing I'll say about LA is I agree with you. Jordan Canada's had a great year. I think there's a couple of people who were in the front running for most improved player, and I think Jordan Canada should be one of them. And I love that she's doing it, being a former Storm player. She's really coming into her own.
Yeah. Number 8, the Chicago Sky. I mean, they look bad this week. They lost all 3 games. I think they're, as of right now, they're in a tie for the 8th seed. I do think that this year, if they don't make the playoffs, I think it's fair to question the Marina Mabrey experiment. It's not gone as planned because they don't have anything to show for it. James Wade traded next year's first round pick. Don't have any draft capital, so I'm just not sold on them at all. I mean, they were held to less than 80 points the last 3 matchups this past week. I mean, you scored over 100 points the last 3 times, and then especially against Washington, they just look different. I believe they play Atlanta Friday and Connecticut Sunday. So I don't expect much from them. I think Los Angeles is going to get that final spot in the playoffs. I think Chicago will miss the playoffs, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and if I mean, I bring it back to the start of the regular season. If Chicago misses the playoffs, where I mean, yeah, you totally get it. You just lost Candace Parker, your best player, who guided you to a championship in 2021.
Yep.
So you totally understand that. Um, we play them not this upcoming Sunday, but the next Sunday, and I will actually be there at that game. So I'll definitely be looking at how they are in person. Um, I just remember the last two times we played them. The first time, it was all on the storm. We didn't show up. Chicago basically played against themselves. It was just a complete lack of effort. They had
Definitely.
like 30 more offensive rebounds than us, which is ridiculous.
Mhm.
And then the second time around, it was a complete adjustment. It was complete adjustments by Seattle, and we just came out and beat them. So it was complete. It was a complete adjustment from one game to the next. But yeah, the I mean the wins is really the team that you're playing against is going to beat themselves, and you're not really going to beat them. So that's all I can speak on with the Seattle perspective.
Right. Number 7, the team that tried to run up on Kelsey Plum. You're not gonna feel around my girl like that. Sorry, that was funny when I looked at that clip. The Atlanta Dream. Listen, I just think the way the roster is constructed. No. Last year I said that they need to get some shooting, and they did that. And I just this roster, the way it looks, it just doesn't make sense. I think at times their chemistry offensively, it struggles. You can't have good games and bad games. I mean, they're only scoring, I think, under around 90 points. I saw that stat, like 90 points per 100 sessions, and possessions, excuse me. And it's like shooting almost 40% from the field and almost turning the ball over 20 times. Like,
I mean, this is some bad stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I just don't know. This is ridiculous. Oh, Lord.
And respectfully, you got to look into it this way. They're not 1-5. So they only have one game this week, and that's against Chicago. So hopefully, between the Commissioner's Cup and now, there's some time to regroup, get ready, re-energize, and ready to go. So,
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the fourth quarter comeback with Seattle, and it was against Atlanta. And yeah, you could point to Seattle for coming back against them, but when you look closer at that specific game, Atlanta, and this was tweeted out too, Atlanta completely gave the game away. They completely gave it to Seattle. They shot very poorly. I think they had a similar point total to what Vegas did against New York, I think, or bench points. I'm sorry, but like points in a quarter. I think they had like four something. It was definitely single digits in the fourth quarter of that game, and they were completely giving the game away. Now, I will commend Seattle because they saw the opportunity and they took it. They saw the opportunity that Atlanta was giving the game away and they took it, and that's how they won. But it's a matter of a playoff team. They're in the playoffs right now. Atlanta is. Can they keep leads in when it matters most? And they need that regroup because I'm telling you, the WNBA standings in the playoffs, the playoff picture is tight. It's very close. So they can either lose their footing and get lower in the standings, or if they make the playoffs, they are going to get smoked by the top 4 teams because those top 4 teams can be real contenders.
I agree. Definitely. Good points, Brendan. Number 6, Washington. A couple things. Lene Harper was released as she's getting ready for Team USA basketball. Saisha Gore, her contributions as well. I hope she finds a spot on the WNBA roster. She was released as well. Shakira Austin made her return to the court this past game. Congratulations to Ariel Atkins as she and the Washington Mystics inked a 2-year deal. Great move. Elena Deladon should be back. Hopefully, probably the only player that probably won't be on this road trip as we are going to Indiana, most likely will be Christy Tolliver. Other than that, I mean, Brittany Sykes, who should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Tiana Hawkins, I would make the argument that she should be in consideration for Most Improved Player because she's definitely stepped up in the absence of Elena and Shakira. Queen and Egbo's definitely stepped up. They've all carried the load. Natasha Cloud as well. I mean, to me, when you get Elena, Ariel, even Christy back, especially Shakira when she's a full 100%, this Mystic team can definitely make some noise. So, my only biggest gripe about this year coming into this year was you needed some size, and that really wasn't. You had it, but you didn't really utilize it, and that's what the Amanda Zawi be. So that's just my biggest strife with the Mystics. But other than that, they looked good. They were looking good. Real quick before we get to the top 5 on a side note, I'm hoping I get to cover the remaining home games for the Mystics, with the exception of one. So I'm hoping to get in there again and cover the rest of the home games. But let's just get into the top 5, and we're going to do this as a quick take. Number 5, Minnesota Lynx. What are your thoughts on this Minnesota Lynx team so far?
Yeah, I think Navisha Collier's really running the show, and she's been playing great. They're kind of formed the same way as Seattle is, but they're a better team. They've started out really rough, and people are thinking about they're rebuilding, they're moving on for life after Sylvia Fowles, but they've kind of picked it back up while the season's gone. So I think that'll be key when it comes to playoff time. But it's nice to see that they've kind of picked it back up.
For sure, I agree. Nafisa Collier should be in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, she should.
Even I still think it's 1A, 1B, Asia Wilson, Brandon Stewart, Alyssa Thomas, and then Nafisa, in my personal opinion. I mean, it's kind of weird. They don't play. I looked at their schedule until Friday. I mean, then they have
against
Seattle, you guys, Friday and Sunday. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, we had that situation. It was flipped. We played in Minnesota first, and then we came back to Seattle, and it was an overtime loss the first time, and then the second time, and then it was a blowout in the first time. So it was kind of like I said earlier with Chicago, it was adjustments, but we essentially lost both games. Dorka Juhas is back, so hopefully she can get back up to speed in her role with the team. I think it's a closer race for Rookie of the Year, and my other candidate would be Diamond Miller.
Sure.
I think the outlier for Leah Boston is she's setting all these records and stuff as a rookie, which is great. But I think the outlier here is going to be that she made the All-Star team. I think that sealed her case for Rookie of the Year. So I just think there should be other rookies involved in this conversation, and I don't think it's a runaway.
I agree. I definitely agree. Number 4, Dallas. Dallas actually had the unfortunate pleasure of facing a Vegas team that just got embarrassed by New York. But then they beat Connecticut. I believe it alone, which was very chippy at the end of that game. But it's basketball. I mean, other than that, I mean, I think listen, Satu Sabli, Arika and Gopawale, they're going to continue their things. I mean, I think she had in that game against Connecticut, she was 2 rebounds from a double-double, 28 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. So, to me, they just got to play well on the road. 6 of the last 10 games are on the road. You got Connecticut Friday, and then you have Washington Sunday. So I'm hoping to be at that game. So I'm not really. I'm not panicking on Dallas. I still think they'll finish as a top 4 seed.
Yeah, they also have. We had a chippy game with them. We had a chippy game with them a little bit ago. And it was. It was more about the officials than the actual teams. I hope Awak Kior. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Heals up quickly because she got a concussion thanks to the refs.
Yeah, I saw that.
Their poor foul calling. And Jewel Lloyd would have been hurt for a long time had she not been the Gold Mamba. It was just unfortunate. That when I look at Dallas, I said the top 4 teams can be contenders, and they can be. Dallas is a team where they are good enough to beat Vegas and Connecticut and New York. They're good enough to beat those teams, but they can also be bad enough to lose to Seattle, to not quite Indiana, but Phoenix. They can be that bad. So their ceiling is very, very high, and their floor is relatively low. So when it comes to playoff time, like I said, if they play the right matchup, they're going to smoke them and move easily into the second round. But so what I'm looking at for this team is how real is this team, and I think that's what they're looking at. What they're questioning too is how real are they? How real can they be in competing for this league? Because now that they're up in the standings and that they've gotten these quality wins, all eyes are going to be on them when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just a final quick take with 3, 2, 1. Number 3, the Connecticut Sun, the New York Liberty, number 2, and Las Vegas at number 1. You just pick which stat has stood out about these 3 teams. Just a quick note. This was just really not a good week for Connecticut. They went 1 and 2. They lost to the Phoenix and Dallas. They gave up more than 90 points in both those games. New York, they've been on a roll. I still think it's 1A, 1B for me. I don't trust them come playoff time. And congratulations on winning the regular season championship banner. And then Las Vegas. Other than, Candace Parker's indefinitely, Raquana Williams, and arrested for domestic violence, and then Alicia Clark, who deal with back issues. They just got to figure out their bench. So, and define what those roles are. Let's take a minute or two and just what do you think is for those 3 teams last?
Yeah, I mean Connecticut is they are who they are, and they're going to be a championship contender, and it's going to be fun to watch them in the playoffs. New York, I gotta tip my hat to Jonquil Jones for proving me and everybody else wrong. I think she heard the naysayers. I'm pretty sure she heard the naysayers, and there were a lot of them, including me. I was hoping to be one of the biggest ones. But her personality's not going to go away, and I don't expect it to. But she's really come into her own, and I think that's why I think that's one reason why the Commissioner's Cup MVP should have and did go to Jonquil Jones.
Sure.
That I think that was a big moment for her, and it's proving that they can play outside of Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu, mainly Brianna Stewart. Now they do have games where they have to lean on Stewart, and if they win, that's okay. But if they lose, then the questions come back up. So it's just a matter of can they keep this momentum into the playoffs. So that was my big. I mean, my big takeaway with New York, and then Vegas, they're going to be fine. Just, as Aaron Rodgers says, RELAX, relax. They're going to be fine. And if you have any doubt about this team, if you're a Vegas fan, and trust me, I have Vegas fans on my TL, they're chill, they're fine, they're good. But if you're a Vegas fan who doesn't have social media, good for you, man, good for you. But if you don't have social media and you're a Vegas fan, and you don't trust this team, trust Becky Hammon, who just made it into the Hall of Fame. She knows what she's doing.
Tell him, Brenden.
She knows what she's doing. So, and she won a championship in her first year. So that's it. If anybody can fix what Vegas's issues are, whether they're on the court or off the court, Becky Hammon can. I wouldn't trust anybody else.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to end this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Brenden, always is a privilege to have you on. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Brenden will be back on next week. We will have an announcement pertaining women's college basketball. We're not going to announce it right now. We're going to wait until just before the playoffs start. We're going to share that announcement. But until then, I will leave a description. Link is in the description for Brendan's Twitter. Also to the Storm lead, great writer, very knowledgeable of the Seattle Storm. This man's doing big things. You can also find him at MarylandSportsBlog.com and also Twitter as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you on the flip side. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace. Stay up.
If ever you find yourself in need of someone you can count on, call on me. I will be the shoulder on which you can lean. 'Cause I'm always here to listen, to be the one that you can count on. Pick you up when you start to fall. And if you ever need me, girl, all you have to do is call. I'll be the one to dry your tears, the one who will chase away your fears. And I'll go that extra mile to see you smile again. Whenever you need me, I will be there. I'll always be with you to show you I care. No matter what may come, you'll always be my friend.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I want to thank you, yeah. I want to thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything.